to another round of 10 for the producers. I am Darian Vorlick.
And I'm Eric Kieron Davis.
So first off, we want to thank our subscribers for helping us be able to do shows like this. We greatly appreciate it. Without you guys, shows like this would not be possible.
Yeah, and thanks for answering all of our prompts on the forums
Oh,
to get to these great questions.
Yeah, we've been getting some great questions from you guys. So I guess we can start with the first one.
All right, let's do it. You want me to go?
Go for it.
All right, I'll go first. All right, from Wintermute. Having heard more about the role you play in previous 10-4 producer videos, I wondered if you could explain any differences between being a producer and being a traditional project manager. Is this more down to industry terminology, or does a producer entail more staff management than you would be expected in a typical project management roles? Could I become a project manager in my current company and one day make the jump to becoming a video game producer? Great question.
It is, and then there's a lot of yes and no's to that.
Yeah, I think the reason this one's so tough is because there are so many intertwining responsibilities for these two roles.
Yeah, definitely a lot of overlaps.
Yeah, so the term gets banded around differently based on region, based on organization, based on company, based on people's previous experience. There are a lot of similarities, right? There's a lot of crossover. We do budget reviews, we do schedule building, we do team management, we do personnel management, and even within CIG, we have some project managers and some producers, and we are overwhelmingly intertwined quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's to your first question. Yes, there are a lot of similarities between the two, and it's a lot of preference based on the company itself and what their previous experience has been. And then to your second question, could I become a project manager in my current company? Yeah, totally, absolutely. There are skills that you would learn at a regular software company doing project management, specifically project management, right?
And even certifications.
Yeah.
Like the PMP certifications on Scrum, Agile.
Absolutely. Absolutely. These are all techniques that would help you understand what it would take to get a project done within games, right? So yeah, you're totally good.
A good example of this is my brother. He is a technical project manager for another video game company, and he actually doesn't touch the games himself, which is why he's not considered a producer at that company. He's an internally facing producer, so in that company he's considered a project manager because he deals a lot more with the console side of the technical aspects of it, where people on his team who deal with who are game facing, they're considered the producers of the company.
Yep, totally. I mean, you've seen it where some companies will deem somebody producer because they may have a little more creative input, let's say, than a project manager, right? So it really does depend on the company, and it's more important to look at the job description more than anything else of what the person's looking for if you're going for a job as one of these two roles. All right, that answers the question. Yeah,
good question.
Yeah.
All right, next one. This one comes from Nostromo 1977. With the apparent style of World War II dogfighting in Star Citizen, will CIG add various tobacco products to the game, such as cigars, cigarettes, and pipes that players can smoke, and do you envision them being illicit? Well, this is not directly a production-related question. It does relate to outside aspects of game development, which is rating systems such as the ESRB, and what considers, or which rating does our game fall into? Because that kind of activity is considered adult only, that may bump a rating up to mature or higher. Where in-game violence, because it's much more, I guess, cartoony, can be downgraded to like a age 13 and up. So whether we'll have it in the game, that's we haven't really set our ESRB rating just yet. So it's kind of one of those unknowns, and it depends on what kind of market you want your game primarily to appeal to. Something like Grand Theft Auto, obviously a lot of adult themes, therefore it's going to have a mature rating. Do we want to have that kind of rating? I don't know. It's entirely up to Chris where he wants that game to go. But I believe mass appeal is the direction that we're going with, because we want this game to be accessible by a large audience. So while there may be a seedy bar kind of setting that you land on a planet where you can get bounty hunter missions, stuff like that, what kind of activities those characters will be up to, it's kind of still left up in the air.
Yeah, and if you kind of even go back to the lore or to the writers, like what should the universe have in it? What should the characters have in it, right? I think that's something that's in Chris's head.
Does it serve a function?
Exactly. I don't know if it's you set out to make something to go, I'm definitely going to have that in my game. It's like, well, does it inspire the world that the person's going to be in? Does it immerse them into this universe? And if smoking's supposed to be a part of it, then sure, right?
Or is smoking completely just outlawed in this universe?
You got it. You never know. In the future, it may never exist. All tobacco plants, gone.
Dead.
You never know.
Yeah.
But a good question. Next up, Fallen. Did you say Fallen or Fallon?
Fallon.
See? Fallon. All right. Fallon or Fallen. Either way, great name. Hey there. I am planning to enter the I'm planning to enter the industry after university. I am planning on being a 3D environment artist. From your experience working with them, especially the fresh meat, would you suggest spending time going and working on a specific theme or style, an aesthetic preference, or tailor to more realism regardless? This is a great question.
That's all you.
Yeah. So what I have seen from the artists I've worked alongside is do what inspires you more than just doing something what the industry requires, right? Like if you love sci-fi, you love spaceships, right? Focus on that. Focus on 3D environments for that, and there will be companies out there like ourselves who are looking for those kind of talent. If you love cartoony, if you like big world, if you like lots of color, right? Do that. But what I've always kind of recommended to new artists coming into the industry is look to see kind of your dream company or your dream game and start building your portfolio around that, right? Because it's always like if you want to apply for a job at a company that does for their environments just foresty stuff, and all you have is this industrial, broken down, rusted environments, they're going to go, well, I don't know how to value you here. I don't know what I can use you for in the game we're making. We don't have any of that here. So how do you do forests, right? So it more comes down to what you see in the industry that excites you, what you think your strengths are, and tailor it to your strengths, and then building a portfolio around that. I've seen a lot of really great new artists that kind of touch everything, right? That way they can see what they're skilled at and see what they're talented at, and then they can tailor their portfolio to that company they're going to work for, and that usually works pretty well. So, your question of which one should you focus on, I can't give you an answer. It just depends on what kind of project you want to work on, what kind of art do you want to make, what kind of game or cinematic or movie or whatever it is industry you want to go into. That's really driven by you and what excites you. Really, what I've seen with most artists is what they're passionate about. That's what they're going to do the best.
But it also does help to have at least keep an open mind.
Oh yeah,
as
absolutely.
far as being able to be fairly versatile.
Absolutely.
Because there may come a point where you may have a certain skill set or certain art style that your company likes.
Yep.
But at some point they may ask you to do something completely outside of your comfort zone because, well, the needs of the company, needs of the project needs you to do something else.
Totally.
And either if you're not invested in that or it's a skill set that you don't have, you may end up being either unhappy with the results, the company may be unhappy with the results. So it does pay to have at least a diverse skill set to begin with.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But like say some of the portfolios I'd be looking at with some of our lead artists and art directors is say you're applying for a senior vehicle artist role and you just have done a bunch of foresty stuff. We can't associate what you do with vehicles, right? We can't associate what you do with the thing you're applying for. So if you're going to apply for something or a company you want to work for, I would still have your diversity, but still build your portfolio around what they're looking for at that time. Because we don't have a ton of time to look through everybody's 600 pages of images to go, they are really good at that one thing. I wish we had the time to do that, right? Which is why we always say on portfolios, front load, give us your best stuff right away, really give us a sense of who you are. But it does help to do your homework on the company you want to work for, build your portfolio around it, and when you apply, really put that stuff up front. There you go.
Awesome.
All right, good question.
Okay. This next one. Ooh, this one's addressed to me.
Oh.
X.
That means I can't answer. I'm not saying anything.
This next one is from X Toddman X. Darian, for Christmas, I would like a pony. No. Okay. Darian.
That's not what it says.
I was wondering why was the call made to merge Star Marine and Arena Commander so early in the build? Could we have kept them separate and thus allowed updates to Arena Commander to continue while Star Marine was polished?
It's a great question.
And it's a very difficult question to answer because there's a lot of facets involved in that, in that decision. Ultimately, the decision falls on Chris. One facet of that decision is ease of development. If we kept the builds separate while we continue to work on Arena Commander, by the time we were getting ready to release the FPS or Star Marine, we'd have to merge those builds back together again, and that can cause all kinds of unknown problems and bugs. Because as we iterate down the road, there's going to be unique developments in that particular build on Arena Commander that may not happen in Star Marine. So when we go to merge the builds, all those bugs that we fixed in Arena Commander may either resurface in Star Marine or things that were going smoothly in Star Marine may cause bugs in Arena Commander. So having them developed simultaneously in a single system makes it a lot easier. Things like changing the skeletons for the animations on the characters, that we at least having them unified is also a good way of doing that. So without going into a multi-hour long discussion about the logistics, probably one of the best ways to describe it is just simply for developmental purposes of keeping things very similar to one another to avoid having bugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hope that works for you.
Yeah. It was directed to you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, also, just really quick, if you go to the website, if you look at Chris Roberts' Star Marine and FPS update, it does give some information on the development of this, on why, on why certain things have happened within development of Star Marine. So you may find some of the information relevant there as well. So I highly recommend reading it. It's a very, very good write-up by Chris.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Good question. All right, next I'm up. From Alex Valentine. It's a good name. Alex Valentine.
I remember this was a good question.
Yeah, I've actually been a little curious about that myself. He was referring to a question we had in the forums. Is there any kind of default experience that's looked for as far as producer positions? I've debated trying to get into the industry, possibly even within a Star Citizen studio, but don't exactly have any direct experience. However, I'm a veteran of the military going on almost 15 years, thank you for serving, and have organized a variety of projects within it and in my civilian life as well. Would that exclude me still from lacking a generic college degree, or would I be able to find an open-minded company on that aspect?
Oh, that's a really good one.
That's a good question, and no, you would not be excluded from a role, right? It depends on the job. With your experience, if it makes sense, would you be able to jump right in and get a producer level role at some company? Maybe not, right? But the fact that you've got project experience, right, that you've done project in some form or fashion, that you can speak intelligently about how you got that project from the beginning to the end, those are great traits. They're skills you learn that we use every day that will help you in this environment. Would maybe a production assistant or coordinator role or even associate producer role in certain companies make more sense? Probably, right? But it's definitely wouldn't. There's no specific degree that would get you anyone any higher than the life experience you would bring to the role itself. So
it's one of the industries I've seen as a very even playing field. That oftentimes it's what you know, not necessarily where you went to school.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, actually, let's look at Blizzard. Mm-hmm. How many senior producers we know that did not have college, never even went to college?
Sure.
One of them was like an air conditioning repairman. One was like just worked at a .com sales, and they eventually became senior and lead producers.
Yep. It's a very young industry, and so we still have a lot of. We don't necessarily have a full degree program out there. I think they're starting to pop up more for games, but we don't. Most of the leaders of the industry don't necessarily come from a game school focused background, right? They got into the industry, they loved it, they worked their way up, they learned the industry, they wanted to make the industry better, and so I think all that kind of combined, yeah, I mean, you could totally get a role within some kind of producer role at some kind of game industry studio. I don't see why not.
I'm going to actually add something just as a little nod to Alex Mayberry, something he told me back when we were at Blizzard.
Yeah.
If you're looking to get into production, don't look at it from the perspective of, well, I'm not an artist, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a designer, I'm not an engineer, so what's left for me? I think I'll try production. That is the wrong reason to get into production. You have to have a very dedicated love for it. You have to love looking at spreadsheets, keeping things organized. Now, you with a military background, that would obviously come into that having that discipline would help greatly.
Totally.
But it's something that you have to have a passion for. If you're someone who just, well, by default, because I can't do anything else in the industry, I might as well get into production. I've historically seen a lot of people who go with that route tend to have a lot more trouble within the industry.
Yeah.
So find some, if you just want to get into the industry, pursue a course that you want to. If you want to be a designer, start designing mods for different games, things like that. But if you want to get into production, that's a very, very specific skill set and discipline to pursue.
Yep, absolutely. So, great question, and there's definitely still an opportunity out there for you.
Absolutely.
I think for sure.
All right, next one. This one comes from Booyakashasta. Here's one I've asked myself a few times given the advent of early access games. Given that Star Citizen requires near constant iterations and updates to playable build, namely Arena Commander and soon Star Marine, does this help or hinder the progress of the overall project? If you didn't have to plan for these playable branches, would production of the game be further along, or is it just another layer in the game development process that only requires minimum attention and resources? So this is kind of very similar to Todd and X's question about why we build them and produce them simultaneously. Mm-hmm. Again, it's for efficiency purposes. because developing them at the same time, it keeps, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here. Basically unifying the system as we move forward. I'm trying to find the right word for that. So does this help or hinder the overall project? Probably a little bit of both. While I know the Arena Commander guys would love to just solely focus on Arena Commander, and the Star Marine guys would love to just solely focus on Star Marine, focusing on just that particular aspect of the development. But given that our global office has to keep the eye on the ball on everything everybody's doing, it does both hinder and help the project.
Yeah, this one's it's a really great question because there's a lot of companies, a lot of people are starting to try to do this where you have essentially a live game that you're supporting while you're creating a game at the same time. And a lot of companies have done this by separating the development teams, right? And having a live team versus the people that are creating
doing production, pre-production at the same time.
Exactly. Not necessarily the case for us, but I don't know if it hinders because there's a lot of things that mesh well, and that maybe what you're thinking of.
Thank you.
We benefit a lot from things that have come up during the live build that we can then put into what we're trying to develop at the same time, and vice versa. And because we're working out at the same time, we're more agile, I think, in moving that stuff around. So maybe a little bit of both, but I definitely think it helps a little bit more to have that live feedback, to have things out there, to get people playing it, and when people play our game, it gets us excited to want to make it more, right? So.
And I also think that it doesn't help that we're also kind of spearheading this.
Yeah.
It's a brand new kind of project where we're kind of paving the way for that. Yeah. So we're kind of, I won't say not necessarily learning as we go, but we're breaking a lot of new ground here. So there's going to be learning experiences as we go.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. Good question. On to me. All right, from Air Matthias. Matthias. Is that how you say that? Matthias?
Matthias?
Matthias.
Herr Matthias.
Herr Matthias. We'll say that. Herr Matthias, what do you think about presenting the project status page, and they've linked the project status page on our website, in a better way and show it some love so that every backer, also some that were away for 6 months or longer, can see what is the current game status and what stuff is currently being worked on for the next patch in, let's say, 2 minutes? He was referring, that's great. He's referring to a page somebody was using more like a Scrum board. So this is a really great question. And this is something I think we struggle with all the time of we have a lot going on all the time, and internally we have a lot to track. We have a lot to manage. We have a lot to keep on top of, to keep our developers focused, to keep us focused, to keep focused on getting out a product. So we have our amazing community team down here that works really closely with us, that just tries to pump as much information out as possible. So going from the very high level, one word, this is the status of that, into a broken down for each single one of those, I think is a great idea, and I think it would be something we'd love to do. I don't know if it's feasible in the short term, but I think it's definitely something we'd love to do. It's some way that we can provide you guys a lot of information quickly so that if you do go away and be like, I'll be back when you got more game done, and you come back, you can see where we're at. I think it's a great idea. So we've definitely looked at stuff like that. I just don't know if we're at that place yet.
I don't know how well it would help transparency either. I guess because so many features get pushed up, pushed back on a regular basis, just even within the Arena Commander team.
Yeah.
Calyx could be working on one thing one moment, and because we have a deadline coming up, he may have to shift focus onto something completely different.
Yeah.
And unless you've got one of the Cloud Imperium guys or ladies, constantly updating, like the reason why he's shifting focus because of this. Without that kind of context, it'll look like we either just stopped developing it, and we don't want you guys to get the wrong impression that we've stopped working on something when that developer just simply is shifting focus onto something else for the moment.
Absolutely.
So while we'd like to be able to give you those kinds of updates on a regular basis, we'd have to kind of unify on how we want to deliver that and how we provide context on what's going on. I think that's a very, very challenging thing, especially with how open our development already is in the first place.
Totally, and going back to what Darian said about breaking new ground, right? We're doing new things, some things that a lot of us didn't do at previous organizations, and things we're even learning how to do with you guys. So I think we're constantly learning along the road of how can we be transparent and provide information, but how else can we get things done at the same time, because that's 2 full-time jobs, the 2 full-time things we need to do. So we're always looking for ways to do that. So it's a great question and a great reference. Thanks for referencing that link.
This next one's by Gravy. Any tips for setting realistic timeframes, especially when dealing with something the team hasn't done before? Would you consider it better to work in a certain amount of flexible time to the initial schedule for when things run over, or is it more like a plan runs off track and you start fresh from where you are now? So that actually pretty much defines what a producer does, is keeping things on track. And there are always going to be surprises that pop up unexpectedly. I mean, if things ran perfectly like on a train track, it would make production way too easy of a job. So things are going to pop up. Schedules do skew, whether it's suddenly a blocker bug, that something that prevents us from actually finishing the task that we're working on, or prevents us from actually releasing it publicly because this bug is so severe. Obviously that's going to take higher priority, and that's going to steer a lot of resources away from certain aspects depending on how severe that issue is. So in a nutshell, it's going to be a ubiquitous yes and no.
Sure, and I think to your first question about how when you're working on something brand new or someone's working on something they've never worked on before, how do you essentially do what it sounds like is bidding, right? How do you bid out that work to understand the full scope of it?
And how do you set realistic timeframes?
Yeah, that's a very, very great question, and it is very difficult, especially if, let's say, you don't work in the industry and you just want to make a feature for a game that already exists, or get an SDK and start building something with a designer and a programmer and an artist, right? You've never done it before, so how do you bid it out? It's a great question. The biggest thing is we usually do is we try to use folks that have done it before, right? We try to reach out to people that have done it before, first within the company, right? Go, hey, have you worked on this before at a previous company, or even here maybe because we have multiple locations. At your location, how do you do that, or what would your bid be for that, to kind of give us set time frames. If you don't have that at all, it's just kind of instinct, right? It's breaking down that task with the person who's going to do the work the best they can to go, oh, I think that would be these amount of days and this amount of days, and you just schedule that out, and then you'll likely be wrong. Hopefully you'll be too long, so you can go, look, we got it done sooner, but that's not always the case. So sometimes just trial and error, and that's how it is when you're doing something you've never done before, right?
And ultimately it becomes a skill set that you just kind of develop over time. If we're developing, a brand new torpedo model, historically look at, Dan developed this model in 3 days, Patrick animated in a day and a half. So if this is going to be much bigger, how do we scale that up? Okay, last time it took us 4 days. So let's add an extra couple of days for QA time, some play testing. So let's make it a week. So you kind of start learning how to gauge things like that. But ultimately, anytime you put a schedule together for production purposes, almost kind of a golden rule is the minute you put that schedule out, it's going to be outdated and wrong right away.
That's right.
So because scheduling is always going to be just a series of best guesses anyway.
That's right. And our job is to update it every day and move things around every day and bring up red flags. We're like, hey, the original idea was this. Looks like we're not going to make that date. Are we all okay with that? What should we shift around to make that happen? We do that all the time, right? So great question. It's a good one. All right. This question comes from someone we took a question from last time, Aragorn BH. And we tried to come up with what BH stood for. What would you guess it stands for?
BH?
Yeah, Aragorn BH. Battle horn.
Bad hat.
Bad hat.
Big head.
Big head.
Oh.
All right, Aragorn battle hat. What signs do you look for indicating feature creep has begun to infiltrate into the production of a game? What specifically have you done to ensure that doesn't happen in Star Citizen? Finally, have you developed a place for interesting concept and ideas that would be considered feature creep now, but could be exciting additions after Star Citizen is officially released? Have any of these ideas already been given a green light for post-release creation?
So we have a backlog for.
Yes. So kind of going backwards, forwards on your questions. Yes, absolutely. Right. We have a backlog of everything. Everything that's come up in any meeting, we try to capture. Right. We have this massive, as much as we possibly could. This
sky's the limit ideas.
Sky's the limit. This blue sky idea, scope. Like just go to town. Right. You always want to encourage folks to get that out of their head. Just because it kind of gets excited, right? Be like, whoa, what if we could do this and this and this? And we've all done this, grown up as kids with our, we make things up and we play this. We all do this. We have imagination. So we do encourage that. We want that to happen, and then we capture that in the backlog, and then we take that backlog, and that's when we would filter out future sprints or future milestones or future deliverables, whatever word you want to use. For us, it's future releases, right? When we come up with a patch, we got a few patch plans coming up, and what we'd like to come out in that patch. So we definitely do this frequently, all the time. What have we done to ensure it on Star Citizen? That's a good question, right? Because we're doing something new. We've got a lot of great backers and subscribers that are helping us make this, and we want to do something really cool. We want to do something really big and something unique. So
no shortage of ideas.
And no shortage of ideas. So we are constantly, as producers, working with this blue sky idea and then trying to put it in reality so we can actually get something out for us all to play and have fun with. This is this is a challenge, right? This is a real challenge for us. And we're every day. I mean, today we had meetings about things that, we're like, oh, that's a great idea, but it's out of scope, right?
Yep.
How can we still get this out and then maybe make version 2 or 3 or 4 of it? And you kind of, I think I saw this on one of the questions that I don't think we're answering today, was how do you say, okay, we're done. We got a thing out, we want to play it, and now we'll iterate on it. And you'll see this with people that sell their games for consoles, and then you go to play it, and there's a 500 meg patch immediately, right?
Yep.
That was the same thing. They had to get it out. They went Goldmaster. They got out the product, and they're like, but we got all this other stuff we wanted to fix or get out there. And I think that's kind of just the way now with this constant downloading, streamable world we live in. It's actually a reality without impeding our player base or our wonderful fans or our wonderful folks that are playing our game. So we're balancing that. We're always trying to balance that. So how are we ensuring it? By just looking at the schedules, the realistic list of our schedules, the realistic and nature of our dates, how to get things out quickly and make sure people are having fun with this. And then we try to be realistic in every meeting we go to. Every time we bring it up, we always are the reminder, like, hey guys, we're still trying to shoot to get this done Friday.
Yep.
What do we need to do that?
A lot of times producers have to be the bad guys that just says, no, we can't do this for now.
Yeah.
Maybe later, but right now, no.
Yeah, and a lot of times people understand. They'll work with us on that. We'll raise it up as a red flag again, like I said before, and usually people are like, okay, you're right. We can't. That's not realistic without working 24/7. Which, as much as we all want to do this because we love this project, it's not physically or humanly possible. So.
And you hate curbing brilliant suggestions, especially when you have a lot of visionaries like Chris,
Yeah.
Ben, Dan, all the guys, everybody who contributes to the design of this game. I mean, you have such a collection of brilliant designers and ideas that it's really hard to say, no, we can't do this one right now, let's do it later, because you want to incorporate them all, because like the designers, we want to see this thing happen.
Yeah, that's right. And to answer your question about, do we already have kind of a green light for posts? Yeah, we have an idea of, we want to release this stuff at this time frame, but we still want to put this other stuff in. So, and based on what we did in our initial Kickstarter versus what we're still, funds we're raising, we're looking at, okay, how can we continue to release those past our original schedule or roadmap?
We've got some long-term stuff roadmapped out.
There you go.
So, and those roadmaps will change probably each patch, but we still try to keep a long-term vision.
That's right, the best we can.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, last question.
All right.
Comes from Weiyun 6 of Imperium. Dear producers, we have seen the process of fixing bugs on Bug Smashers. Awesome programmer sits down, thinks, and magic code fixes fly out his fingers. Is that what Mark does?
That's what he does, yep.
Okay.
Now I know.
Is the process of implementing a new feature similar? A lot of people seem to think so. Could you walk us through beginning to end the process of taking a feature from an idea out of Chris Roberts' head or someone else's, all the way to being played on our computers, including some obstacles you run into and how you overcome them? That's actually, it's kind of a sequel to this question here. On a lot of times we do have to limit those ideas. A good example of that would be the Vanguard that Calyx was a variant that Calyx was working on. And he had this idea of a certain role that he wanted the variants to have. It was a great idea, but once the ship team and the designers and the production team sat down and looked at how does that variant fit with the rest of the functionality of that ship, realized it wasn't one that fit with its role.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of cut that variant out and then just start building the rest of the variants from there, or at least design and document the design briefs on how we wanted the rest of the variants to go. So to kind of echo what Eric was saying in the last question, we do have some blue sky ideas. So we sit down, we look at what we want to have in each fixed version that we're releasing, each patch. So for example, right now we're getting ready to work on 1.1.5, and then after that we've got the next version after that, next version after that, next version after that. We have what features we want listed for those versions, and that pretty much helps us plan out what tech we need to have ready by when. What ships do we have to have ready and flyable by a certain date? And that dictates what tasks we give to our designers, our programmers, our artists. So by having those ideas roadmapped out, roadmapping those actually is a skill set in itself, because we can't just say, this month we want one ship that does this. Next month we want 100 people to be able to fly all these ships in around a planet at the same time. That's not very realistic. So we have to have at least realistic expectations when we put these plans together. But this is where a lot of communication for production comes from, talking with designers, talking with artists. And you kind of come to a consensus on what's possible. Can we do this? Is this a good idea, the direction we want to take the game? And ultimately, Chris is the ultimate authority on whether we want to take a game a certain direction or not.
Yeah. And I think to some part of the question about the feature as well, you know, there's the planning and the ideas, and then there's the work time, right? And that's kind of the magic, that's the magic fingers part, right? Like, we get these really talented people together, they construct a plan for how to get this done, we help track it, we help keep them on pace to make sure we hit those deadlines, we work together, things fluidly move around as quickly as humanly possible to get it done, and then magically it's done, right? And we test it with QA, we make sure it works, and then we get it out to you guys. So without going into taking a feature and then saying this artist did this and this developer did that and this programmer did that, it is kind of magic, right? It's just you get a bunch of very good people that know exactly what they're doing with their job, and they take pieces and they are really proactive with it and get it done because we're all super passionate about what we're doing. You know?
And a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that you don't see is, you know, someone staying here till 1 o'clock in the morning just waiting for someone in the UK office to get in just because they have to ask them a question regarding something that needs to be fixed right away.
That's right.
So there's a lot of challenging things that go on behind the scenes. It's not as easy as, you know, Mark having magic fingers. Mm-hmm. As much as we wish him to have magic fingers to be able to just, you know, fix things on a whim, he just waves his, you know, keyboard wand and everything just gets fixed.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of difficulty that goes on to that.
That's right.
So
there you go.
Awesome.
I hope we answered your questions.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, this is Team Purple People Eaters.
I don't know how this happened.
Yeah, this was not planned, we promise.
Yep.
So, but first off, we wanted to thank all our subscribers and our backers for being able to make shows like this happen.
Yeah.
Without you guys, this would not be possible. So, a heartfelt thank you.
And thank you to everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for everybody that's interested in watching this and hanging out with us every day.
So,
or at least when these come out.
So, I am Eric Davis.
Well, no, you're not. That's not who you are. If you're going to be Eric Davis, you'll be Eric Kieron Davis.
Okay, I'm Eric Kieron Davis.
There you go. And I'm Darian Vorlick.
Signing off. Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.